This video is not for whales and dolphins. It's for you, because you are just like me. Average.gamer here, and today it's time to demystify drive disks. We'll cover what routine cleanup stages are the most battery efficient, when to use the Bardic needle shop, and how to identify good or bad disks. Here we go. So let's start at the top, and before we get too deep, on the topic, I should explain that this guide is designed for players who are able to guarantee S-rank discs and are starting to head towards that endgame farming loop. Now you can get S-rank discs from Internet level 35, but from Internet level 40 you can guarantee them more consistently. So this guide is designed for players who have been guaranteeing their S-rank discs and now want to start pushing into endgame content and want to know efficient disc farming methods. If you are under Internet level 40, feel free to hang out, but you might want to come back and watch again when you start farming for real. I'd also recommend that you build up your characters first before worrying too much about discs, as you can just use what you get from completing quests before Internet level 40 and focus on character leveling, skills, and your weapon until then. Also, just to note that character upgrades like leveling is a guaranteed upgrade, whereas farming for discs is more random and you may not get better than you currently have. So you should always focus on your characters first. Now, some quick basics to make sure we're all on the same page. Heading into endgame, we only really want S-ranked discs. You can have the occasional A rank hanging around if you need it, but you should plan to replace those, and we want to make the most out of the 4-piece and 2-piece sets to get extra bonuses that benefit our characters. Moving on to obtaining drive discs then. We get them through routine cleanup stages or through the Bardic needle shop. We're going to start at routine cleanup and it'll become clear why in a moment. So routine cleanup is a bunch of stages, and each stage allows you to obtain 2 different types of disc. You may hear people come from other gachas call these domains. Anyway, this means that some stages can be incredibly beneficial if you can use both types of discs, and some stages may not be so useful to farm if you can only use one half of the potential discs farmed. What this means is that you should take a good look at your account, figure out what characters are missing good discs in certain slots, and that's where you should spend your battery charge, ideally in a position where you would benefit from obtaining either of the available discs on the stage that you are completing. For example, if I wanted Chaotic Metal for Cake Yuan and Swing Jazz for both Nicole and Seth, that's a really efficient domain for me to spend my battery charge on. Now, if I didn't have Ju Yuan, it would be much less efficient, as half the time I'd be getting discs that don't have that much use right now. To look at a clear example, if I wanted Inferno Metal for my Soldier 11, I don't really have any character that benefits much from the Puffer Electro set, so this would not be an efficient domain to farm. We'll pop a pin in this just for now though, and come back to talk about it when we talk about Bardic Needle. I've also assigned a value to each routine cleanup stage for general farming. Now take this with a pinch of salt, and you also need to consider a bit of your account in addition to the value that I have assigned. So I'll talk you through what it means, how I got the value, and then you'll understand how you can use it. So I looked at every character currently available in the game and considered what their best in slot 4-piece and 2-piece set would be. For each best in slot 4-piece, I assigned 1 value point, and for each best in slot 2-piece, I assigned 0.5 value points. I added the figures together for both disc sets in each stage, and we get our overall value per stage. Now, this only works if you simultaneously have and happen to be building every single character at the same time, which would probably not be any of us. You only need 6 characters to clear Shield defense, so on paper something like Sharp Fang and Blunt Axe has decent value to farm, but for my account, as the one character responsible for Polar Metal's score is Ellen, and I don't have Ellen, half the time I'll be getting discs that I don't actually want. Also, side note, I could be massively overvaluing Swing Jazz, but it is a very good support set, so lots of characters want the 4-piece and some want the 2-piece, hence the really high score. Really though, you have to consider your own account with this list, and I would argue that you can farm all of the stages and get value, but the chances are a lot higher to get something usable in the stages over 4.5 value rating, because more characters prefer those sets. I think really what this list does tell us is where we should try not to spend our battery charge, and it's on the 2 lower value stages. I'll pin this spreadsheet in the Discord, and when we get any new sets, we'll update it in there. So moving on, we put a pin in it, it's time to take it out. What if we really wanted to build Soldier 11? Well, Madman and Follower is not an efficient stage to farm, so let's come on over to the Bardic Needle shop. Now, Elfie will take master copies that you obtain from doing pretty much anything. Weekly bosses, leveling up the battle pass, Hollow Zero, Shield defense. There are 3 different colors of master copies: blue, red, and yellow. Blue rolls into B rank discs with a 1 in 5 chance of being an A rank. Red rolls into A rank discs with a 1 in 5 chance to be an S rank, and yellow rolls into S rank 100% of the time. So here's the advice. If you want to build a character and you really won't benefit from the other disc set on the routine cleanup, like for example Soldier 11's case, then you'll want to use Bardic Needle for those sets. So for my account then, as I mentioned earlier, I don't have Ellen, so a lot of the value for my account right now in farming the Sharp Fang and Blunt Axe stage is diminished. Sure, I can occasionally farm it and keep anything good for Miyabi, but my battery charge is probably better spent on Fist and Gun, as I have characters that will make use of both sets. This is where Bardic Needle comes up clutch, as I can just not farm Sharp Fang and Blunt Axe and instead spend my master copies on Freedom Blues, because I don't really need a polar metal. So if you are thinking about farming a stage to get one particular set, maybe check out how many master copies you have first to see if you can avoid using your battery charge on something that will feel pretty low value to you right now. Before we move on to more on Bardic Needle and how to identify and level up discs, this is your reminder that you probably aren't subscribed. Liking and subscribing is the best way to support small creators like me. Thank you so much for all the support so far. You guys are so incredibly cool. So let's talk about Bardic Needle in general then, as there's a lot of stuff you can do here that's pretty handy. Firstly, instead of using your copies to get discs for any slot, you can specify what slot you would like those discs for. So if you're missing one particular disc, you can search specifically for that one. It does bump up the cost per tuning though by double, so 6 copies instead of 3 per disc, but this can really help if you only want a disc for a particular slot, and you can even use this on higher value stages drive disc sets if you still haven't got a decent disc for a particular slot. However, the value lost of essentially losing a disc roll per time doing it means that you shouldn't do it unless you're looking for specific slots. For example, if you come in here with an empty Soldier 11, don't immediately select a slot, just do some rolls and allow them to be random at half the cost, and then when you're just missing that one disc, then that's when you would then select the specific slot. Also, while we're on the subject of her slots, the slots, you can also use a tuning calibrator. These allow you to select the specific main stat that you want for a particular disc roll. You obtain these from the free tier of the Battle Pass, and you can also obtain from completing harder tasks like Hollow Zero, and they've given some additional ones away through events, so you'll probably get a couple. Now, you kind of want to save these for finishing off characters when you're missing that main stat roll, and you'll only want to use them in slots 4, 5, and 6, where there is variability in the main stats. For example, my Juyuan is still missing a decent fist slot. Now, she's not struggling at all with A rank attack disc, as it's still good enough to clear Shiyu 7 with no drama, but it would be a good use of the calibrator to get ether damage bonus as her best option in her slot 5. But this is not all that Bardic Needle offers. You can also dismantle unused discs. It might seem worthless to do it with the blue ones once you are really only looking at S rank discs, but dismantling does give you back a master copy of the same level and some ether plating. You'll also get some Denny's back if you've leveled up the disc at all, and you'll definitely want to do this for your A rank discs too. But I'd caution on dismantling too many S rank discs at this early stage in the game's life cycle, as we might think that defense substats are bad right now, but when we get a character that scales on defense, those S rank discs could end up being really useful. So let's start talking about stats and identifying good drive discs. We already touched on this, but let's discuss slots first. So the main stat, Zenless Zone Zero calls this the base stat, is fixed on slots 1, 2, and 3 for HP, attack, and defense respectively. Now slots 4, 5, and 6 on the other hand have a lot more flexibility, and the main stat here is going to be different depending on the character you're building. DPSs will likely want crit rate or crit damage on slot 4, relevant damage boost on slot 5, and attack on slot 6. Anomaly characters will want anomaly proficiency in slot 4, relevant damage boost or maybe attack on slot 5, and anomaly mastery on slot 6. If you aren't sure what you need, you can check the recommend tab and it will show you what other players are running. This is not always the best option, but it's usually a good indication of what you should be running. You could also check a build guide per character, but that's outside the scope of this video. So we've talked about main stats, now let's talk about substats. Zenless Zone Zero calls these random stats. So each S rank disc is going to have either 3 or 4 substats, and as you level up your disc, there will be rolls into those substats at levels 3, 6, 9, 12, and 15. But as we mentioned, not all discs created equal, and if your disc starts with 4 substats, then you will get rolls at each of the levels. However, if your disc starts with only 3 substats, which is more common, then you'll get a 4th substat added at level 3 instead of a roll into one of the substats. So if you have a 4 substat disc, then you're going to start with an additional roll, which can make them better. But if you get 1 or 2 rolls into a substat that you don't want, it could make it worse than a 3 substat disc. In terms of what substats you want, take a look at the character on the base stat screen and it will highlight the important stats for them. These are the stats you're looking for. With DPSs, you will always want to add attack on too. So you're looking for attack, crit rate, and crit damage for a DPS character. Pen is also useful, but rolls into things like HP and defense are not helping their damage output. So those are the discs that you'll want to replace. Here's a good candidate. we can see that although we had crit rate on here, most of our rolls went into defense. The pen isn't bad, but we can certainly do better. Clearly, I leveled this up early on so that I had something, which isn't bad because it lets you clear the content, but now I could replace it with something better. Now that we're in the farming loop, and just to demo this for you, here's a potential upgrade. It's got 3 substats, so it's not amazing at this point, but it could roll into a useful 4 stat for us, like crit damage or attack. So let's upgrade. We add our plating for level 3, it'll add our new stat, and it tells us here we hit upgrade and we've rolled into HP, which is not good. But our next roll could be the fabled crit rate. So we add to level 6 and we get a defense roll, also not good. Honestly, at this point, I would probably write off this disc with 2 bad rolls out of 2. Chances are now like 1 in 4 that we get crit rate on the remaining 3 rolls. We probably aren't getting too much value out of this disc, but I'll carry on for the video. If we add to level 9, it rolls into crit rate, which is fab. If the next roll is also crit rate, I would take this to 15. We add to 12 and we get a flat HP roll. Not good, and I shan't bother taking this the rest of the way. A good stopping point if a drive disc isn't working out is either at level 9 or 12. At level 6, you may have only had 1 upgrade if you just rolled your 4th stat at level 3. Ideally though, you want to have at least 2 desirable substats on a disc when you're upgrading, so my last demo disc was actually pretty poor. Now, seeing as I had upgraded it a little and my original disc was also pretty poor, I decided to carry on going and cross my fingers for crit rate, but it wasn't to be. So in summary, how do we get better drive discs? We farm our routine cleanup stages efficiently when we need both sets. We prioritize using Bardic Needle for sets where we only need 1 set of the 2 on routine cleanup, and level discs with at least 2 beneficial substats for our characters and stop at either levels 9 or 12 if it's not going well. Let me know then, guys, was this helpful? What are you going to start doing differently? And did I miss anything major? Let me know in the comments down below. Another video of mine should pop up now if you're interested. I'm off now to cry about my Juyuan's slot 5, and as always, pour responsibly and remember to like and subscribe for better than average luck on your next pulls. Also join the Discord. Bye.